Russians want war? They do, with all their little hearts and black souls. They were told on TV that it's fun and entertaining.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, I respectfully ask, would you please take me to war?
But real war did something incredibly. It sobered up the Russians. The chauvinistic hangover has worn off for almost everyone. Even for the Kremlin's geostrategists. The appetite for seizing Ukraine and showing Ukrainians what real decommunization looks like has shriveled up, like the dollar in a chain smoker's imagination.
You want decommunization? Well then, that suits us just fine.
Ordinary orcs, Z-patriots, and propagandists are shouting that the special military operation should end before they all end themselves.
The special military operation needs to be brought to an end as soon as possible. Not in the sense of retreating or pulling back, please understand, that's not what I mean. It needs to be finished quickly. No need to say, we haven't even started yet. That's it. It's already time to wrap this up.
Even those in the O0 cooperative understand that capturing yet another village at the cost of 3 regiments no longer boosts patriotic spirit, but instead brings the Great October Revolution too closer.
We have outrageous losses, meat grinder assaults, and people like Ernest and Goodwin are being thrown en masse into oblivion.
That's why Moscow has started gradually preparing its lackeys for a possible defeat, or at best a freeze, without achieving the ambitious goals it set, such as denazification, demilitarization, capturing Donbass and Novorossiya, and reaching Transnistria.
And of course, it won't lose the war with Ukraine. It just won't lose. It might end at some stage that, doesn't completely satisfy us. That's why we don't state our final objectives, because, well, wherever we end up, we just say, that's exactly where we intended to go. We never wanted to go any further.
But if there are no results, that doesn't mean you can't tell the public that there are. Fortunately, Russians are ready to swallow any rotten mackerel wrapped in a Pravda newspaper.
The truth. Live by the truth. Ha!
Kadyrov's camel Apti Alodinov first warmed up the serfs for a victory announcement. While running from Ukrainian drones in the Kursk region, he declared the special military operation would soon be over, because Russia had already won.
As I always say, we have already won this special military operation.
The Ukrainian armed forces are in the Kursk region, and yet he claims that the goals of the operation have been achieved. Now that's what I call a masterstroke.
You start to realize that the country has become more united than ever before. We must understand that victory in the SVO is a close question, it is clear. We have won this special military operation, and
everyone reacted to Alodinov's words the same way they always do. They burst out laughing. The only one who can compete with him in spouting nonsense is the Rain Man from the Ministry of Defense, Konashenkov.
Today at 11:15, the Kiev regime carried out a terrorist act, as a result of which a Russian military transport aircraft was shot down.
But then, the narrative about an imminent victory started to echo from high offices and TV studios as well, especially after all the red lines had been crossed.
Negotiations in the world are conducted for 2 reasons. The first is unconditional surrender, when the victor dictates everything. Today, that is not the case. So, there will be peace negotiations and peace, if it is possible at all, as a compromise. They will never recognize either Zaporizhia or Kherson or Donetsk or Luhansk, never. So that means it will remain in some kind of suspended status. So our demand for their recognition, I think, does not look realistic right now.
We tested the level of stupidity of the Laptinoga at Oreshnik. And this test was more successful than the Oreshnik test itself. Despite video evidence showing only minor consequences from the strike, Putin declared that Oreshnik had destroyed Yuzhmash. And in general, it's just as terrifying as a nuclear bomb, together with a meteorite.
Comparable to the temperature on the surface of the sun. That's a kinetic strike, a powerful impact, like a meteorite falling. We know from history how and where meteorites have fallen and what the consequences were. It actually turned out to be more than enough to form whole entire lakes, right?
Even if, for instance, tomorrow, for example, a video appears online showing a clearly drunk Putin in a sauna apparently proposing to a pig, the mainstream news media will still say that it was actually just a speech at the UN, and Russians will believe it. the Syrian disgrace became a perfect testing ground for propaganda. Immediately after Assad's flight and the complete defeat of pro-Russian forces, Solovyov went live on air and pompously declared that Russia had achieved all its goals in Syria, had defeated everyone, and was therefore voluntarily leaving.
And our military, bravely and with determination, successfully accomplished the task set before them and ensured victory. But it was supposed to be the Syrian people and Syrian leadership who would manage the fruits of this victory.
I wonder if Assad's nephew, who was hanged by the rebels not far from the Russian military base, thinks that all the goals have been achieved and that this is a victory.
This is absolutely some kind of disgrace.
The other day, the head of foreign intelligence, Narishkin, crawled out of oblivion and also squeaked about victory. But that's the same snooze-mumrik who mumbled to Putin before the full-scale invasion.
Are you suggesting we start the negotiation process?
No,
Or recognize the sovereignty of the republics? Speak plainly.
I support the proposal and
After a decanter of glass cleaner, Narishkin became bolder and revealed a military secret no one had suspected. Russia is close to achieving the goals of the special military operation.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, you get the idea. No matter how this war ends, Kremlin propaganda will declare a great victory. The victory on TV will be of such proportions that Russians never even dreamed of. Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region, that's a tremendous success. After all, they could have been near Moscow, but instead they're only near Kursk.
You can see it for yourself, we're working and supporting our guys. The guys need our support.
Didn't manage to capture all of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, but that was never the goal. The goal was to eliminate all the convicts in Russia, and of course, any surplus people as well.
This is infantry, you see. It already, so to speak, consists of people who, frankly, aren't considered particularly valuable at all. It's just manpower that's simply meant to be used up. That's why they come here. That's why this sickness exists. You know, Maxim Ogolny once said, yes, this idea has been used a lot in various philosophies and so on, surplus people. You see, since they're considered surplus people, it means you can use them up in war just to put maximum pressure on the enemy.
They didn't take Odessa because it turned out it wasn't a Russian city, but a Banderite one.
Let's destroy at least the places where those missiles are coming from. That's where this transition,
And we make Odessa the capital, right?
Yes, the one we preserve.
No, of course we won't preserve Odessa, sorry. We'll rebuild it from scratch later. That'll be much easier. We're not making this up. That's exactly what they'll say 99% of the time. The Kremlin has already announced the complete demilitarization of Ukraine.
Indeed, Ukraine was heavily militarized when the special military operation began. As Putin said yesterday, one objective was the demilitarization of Ukraine. In fact, this objective has largely been achieved.
They seriously claim that demilitarization meant destroying all Soviet equipment in Ukraine. But the fact that there is now dozens of times more modern weaponry, the army has grown fivefold, F-16s have appeared, and Ukraine has its own serial production of long-range missiles and drones, that doesn't count.
Our fundamental position is as follows. Ukraine must maintain a neutral, non-aligned, non-nuclear status, along with its demilitarization and denazification.
The funniest part is that they didn't even destroy the Soviet equipment. The Ukrainian armed forces are still actively using MiGs, Soviet tanks, and artillery. But who cares about these facts when everyone just wants to hear about victory?
In the presidential administration, they believed that the outcome of the conflict should be perceived by society as a victory. They recommended focusing on the so-called calm majority, who will be satisfied with the achievement of the goal. The presidential administration recommended that vice governors, when working on the image of victory and public opinion regarding participants in the military actions in Ukraine, focus on the calm majority. Here, the image of victory is also a very, well, how should I put it, a very interesting formulation. There is, those at the top understand what the outcome will be. They practically no longer hide identity. In general, it will have to be explained that this is a victory.
Do Russians want peace? They really do. With all their little hearts and black souls, for the sake of this, They are truly ready to accept any kind of victory, even the most non-existent and the most humiliating.
We are asking you to end this damn war. We have lost everything. Our home, our land, our cars, our livelihood.
Peace, I want to emphasize again, when made by two sides, always means both sides come to an agreement. And it is always a compromise. A compromise means you have to give something up. It never happens that I just say something and you simply do it. I don't know anything.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.